Welcome to Truth Speaks number 5. And today I will be interviewing Ian Goudie, who is the co-founder of the Tree of Life Sustainability Project. And Ian has been on the spiritual path for a very long time. And he has his own way in which he does his spiritual practice, and we're going to interview him and talk about his direct experiences and his relationship to nature and anything else that he has to share from his own experiences for us. So welcome, Ian Goudie.
Thank you, Miranda.
So Ian, tell us about your relationship to spirituality, spiritual practice. When did it first occur for you? What is your relationship?
I grew up always spending a lot of time in nature. Even as a young boy, whenever I could possibly go out in the woods with my father or with friends, I would do that. So I always had this long-standing connection with nature, and it did actually take me many years to determine that my connection with nature was in fact spiritual. And I did pursue a science career and did a lot of scientific study and research on wildlife, but in the end I had to conclude that my connection with nature was spiritual.
Beautiful. So I know that you have some kind of more a practice undergo. So when did your spiritual practice begin, and what was the form of it?
I can't fully remember when I started meditating. Maybe in my early 20s, but I guess my most consistent practice is always at least a 1 hour meditation in the mornings. Sometimes it can be longer, and sometimes I could have meditation at other times during the day. It often depends on my mental state and how much I feel like I need to quieten my mind and get open.
So what's your, I know that you started the Enlightenment Intensives way back in, 2004, I think it was, yeah. So tell us what happened to you on your first Enlightenment retreat.
Well, when I did my first Enlightenment Intensive in 2004, my partner at the time was on a much more solid spiritual path, and I had no idea what an Enlightenment Intensive was, and even by description I couldn't imagine working on the same question for 3 days, who am I, for 3 days, and over and over and over. So it didn't even make sense to me, and I don't think at that time I had a really good grasp on the concept of higher self and ego self or anything like that. But I went to this intensive with the intention, out in British Columbia, with the intention of going for 3 days, and the intensive carried on for 7 days. But on my third day, I had an enlightenment experience that just blew me wide open, and I ended up staying for the full 7 days.
Yeah, so tell us, what we're looking for here is what was the shift that took place? So what was your state of consciousness before the direct experience occurred, and then what happened afterwards? Can you tell us how that happened?
Yes, so I was working on who am I, and to be honest, I wasn't actually working on the who of me, I was more working on the what of me. Probably because I was really getting deeper and deeper on my connection with nature every time I went outdoors during the walks. So on day 3, during the walking contemplation, I had a direct experience of being one with the universe. And that experience was so incredibly powerful. I can't hardly really describe it other than the fact that I just, when the sunlight kind of came from behind a cloud and hit my third eye, it was just like every atom in my body expanded on throughout the entire universe. I had no idea how long I was in that state, and what brought me out of that state was the gong going off from one of the monitors trying to round up people to go back in for the next Enlightenment exercise. But the shift that took place, one of the big shifts that took place in that was it just opened my heart so incredibly. So when I went back into the process and into the dyads, I was just floating in a sea of love. And I mean, unbelievably hard to describe what that was like, but it just got deeper and deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well that's kind of what happens. Like a person will nowhere near what the height of consciousness can be experienced as, and then when something shifts or the channels get opened, then they go into this very blown out kind of, and then there's no words that can describe that because words are limiting.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do with that experience afterwards? How did you get to integrate that into your life?
Well, at the intensive, it was interesting because this was day 3 in the afternoon. The master, Murray Kennedy, didn't know that I'd had a direct experience, and actually no one knew right away. And so I ended up just going back into the dyad process, not really knowing what was going on, other than the fact that I was in a state. And it was later in the day that Murray kind of intercepted me out in the yard, and I just, all I could say was, "Murray, I think something happened," and I was like, "Ah." And so then he encouraged me to stay and do the 7 days and integrate my experience, and it was just a very incredibly deep place. So when I came out of that intensive after 7 days, I think like after the first direct experience and as big as that, there's a lot of shock in the body and in the system. I mean, I found it even kind of scary driving. You know, initially I was a passenger, and even that was kind of like hard or difficult. I don't think it should be downplayed how major an impact an experience like this could have, because everything shifts inside. So then when I got back to Newfoundland, I found that I was in one of the experiences I was having, or I had, was I was incredibly disillusioned with my whole science field, and I was in the latter process of a doctorate degree. I came incredibly close to quitting that, and I went through a huge amount of disillusionment. I remember walking down the corridors of the university, looking in cubicles, and just going, "This is not even truth. This is so far from truth." Everyone in their own little zoned out place and little bubble, you know, thinking that somehow they're contributing something to what's real when it's all not real. So it can be very disillusioning.
Yeah, exactly. So it does happen to people where you can be in contact with truth, and then your truth is so out of context with the way things are in your personal life, that it does take a long time, and sometimes there's some major shifts that have to happen in your personal life before you can fully feel like you can live in life with truth, because now it feels like truth is so real and the external world seems so unreal. Sometimes it can have that strong impact. So it takes a little time to integrate the two. And it's such a blast because there's the kundalini that's kind of moving up through your nervous nervous system. And that's what's cleaning out all the channels so that you can have an experience of truth.
Right.
So, yeah. So is there anything else you want to say about, your...
Well, the Kundalini, the flooding of love throughout the body. I mean, I remember after my experience in those dyads, just being basically a vegetable, and getting asked my question, I would just kind of like, I could hardly talk. It was in this sea of love, is about all I could describe it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. And so I know that you've had several more experiences, and you've had a lot of experiences with Enlightenment Intensive since then. Is there any other experience that you'd like to share with us? I know that there are 5 questions in which a person can work on. One is tell me who you are. Another one is tell me what you are. Tell me what another is, like another human being or another life form. Tell me what life is, and tell me what love is. So you probably have worked through all of those questions. So which one would you say, can you talk about now as the one that resonates with you?
Yeah. Well, I am an EI trooper, so I have to confess that I lost count of how many EIs I did at 50. It could easily be 60 or more now. And I've had a lot of direct experiences. They're always beautiful. They're always different. And contact with universal truth is an infinite experience. I don't think it's possible to get enough of it. When you start out in the Enlightenment Intensive process, you have this notion, I got to get who I am so I can work on what I am, so I can work on what another is, so I can work on what life is. But actually, that's not even what it is about. In fact, each question is a koan, which is a non-answerable question that the intellect can't possibly answer. And so the direct experience is a direct experience of universal truth. And we could call that the divine. And it'll come whatever way it comes, and it'll come in the way often that is most suitable for the individual at the time. I think that probably I'll talk about love because I've spent the last 5 years pretty much asking or working on the question of love at all my Enlightenment Intensives. It's almost like love is the ultimate element of the universe, and everything in the universe is stitched together with love, and it becomes kind of like the question or the experience that comes with the truth of who I am or what I am or what another is. It's always kind of sitting on a sea of love. And my most recent experience, which I have had in kind of a different iteration before, is that I am the source of love. And so love is not something that's arising outside of me, and certainly not something that's coming into my being through another individual. And it's an incredibly powerful experience because it's probably one of the most predominant illusions of humanity and of relationships, is that something outside of ourselves is bringing love into our lives, and that creates the whole notion of separation and notion of attachment, to another individual. So that's been an incredibly powerful experience.
So I'd like to hear, give us an example of what you would have been working on prior to your direct experience of love. I know you've been working on it in different ways and you've had several experiences on that, but give us a little example of like what you were struggling with beforehand, and then the shift, and then how that shift shifted you in life.
Yeah. Struggling, yeah, that's...
It's too far away?
It is a little far away. I don't know if I struggle as much now in Enlightenment Intensives. It's almost like the technique and the whole forum of an Enlightenment Intensive becomes second nature after a while.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even quite sure what you're doing, but sometimes it has, like the love question has taken the form of getting like the turnaround in a dyad where I'm kind of, speaking from a place of pain, like my father never ever expressed love to me, and how painful that was, and probably being in tears in my dyad about it. And then suddenly it's kind of like, like the truth just came right through, and it's just like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what my father did. All that matters is that I'm present, and that I'm open, and that I'm not pinching off my love, to another, as a result of or in reaction to how I was feeling the other should have behaved.
Right.
And, so it can come like that. It can come like this flip around, and suddenly the truth comes in, you go, oh my God, it doesn't matter.
Right. So you'd be having one way of seeing it, and then all of a sudden there's a flip.
Yeah.
And then the whole other side of perspective shows up. And the direct experience is what in that?
The direct experience is the love that's flowing in you, or in me, that's, showing me that, there is no love really outside of me. It's what's flowing out of me that's everything. And that's an experience like that has with it a whole body experience.
Yeah, it's not just an intellectual understanding, which a lot of people might think it is, but it's a full body blown energetic experience, and that's the only way that the shift can take place in reality.
It doesn't come through the mind. It's kind of like the truth kind of floods the entire being, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Right.
And there's this moment of perfect knowingness, right?
Yeah.
We just know, right? Like, it doesn't matter that my dad had trouble expressing love. Like, that's got nothing to do with truth.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Tell us a little bit about, say, your struggles with, let's say, use the thing with love, like, or even just say, like, say you were brought up with a dad who couldn't express his love, and how that had an effect on you in life, and the struggles you had with that conditioning, I guess, in life, and how did that make you, and then how the direct experience shifted that.
Right. Well, I mean, it's my belief that most individuals go into their adult life with some area of trauma or scar or whatever. It's a struggle. There's something under most everyone that's a major struggle. Mine would be more in the area of nurturing, not feeling nurtured, and it could be related to never feeling, anything from my dad in terms of love, but I think it related to my mother as well. And so I carried into my adult life this deep scar of not feeling nurtured, and then I'm constantly looking outside myself to be nurtured. And so, like a direct experience of love, like to get real clear on that, is the realization that I'm always nurtured because love is, I'm the source of love. And it's not that the scar, we'll say, disappears as such. It's just that there's a sort of like this knowingness that comes in. You go, oh yeah, I can feel that desire to be nurtured now, and I don't think that will ever leave me, but it doesn't control me. It doesn't control the behavior that I go out and enter into relationships with or take into the world.
Right. So in other words, your direct experiences are evolving you in the sense of how you relate to others.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that. How is that shifting?
The big shift for me is I'm not an overly social person. I never have, and certainly in my earlier life, I would describe myself as introverted because I would spend so much time in nature. All my contact was in nature, and I really didn't grow up in an environment where I was doing a lot of socialization and interacting with people, and I'm still not very interested in that. But what I find now is that when I'm having contact with people, I really like and enjoy a very authentic contact. So it's kind of like when I have someone in my life that's showing up in a very real, authentic way, it's just like, wow, I can really get that. And I like to be very much authentic to people that are in contact with me. It's almost like the truth burns a lot of impurities out of your body, and then you become just a more authentic individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So is there anything else about your personality structure, the way you live life, the way you interact with others that has changed or shifted as a result of these direct experiences?
Well, I mean, I spent 20 years in a raging science career, and there was a time when, I thought I was one of the best wildlife scientists in North America, and I was going to, publish more on sea ducks than any other scientist in the world, and on and on and on. Like if I never write another scientific paper, I won't mind, and it's almost painful now to do those sorts of things. To me, what's really important is to be able to get up in the morning and meditate and just be at peace and not feel like there's all of these things that I have to go out and somehow obligations that I got to meet, things that I got to prove to the world. I think it gives a sense of power, and it has a way of taking away a lot of fear, and ultimately it's fear that destroys love. So if I'm going to go into the world and really be in a place of love, I have to let go a lot of fear, and truth has a way of burning all of that out.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. Truth has a way of burning out fear, doubt, smallness, jealousy, all of the sort of the lower nature emotions that run us in our lives. Yeah, is there any other area that you feel has been, that maybe you're still burning them, but is there any other area of your sort of individual personality that's getting burnt through this process?
Well, a really important thing about truth and experiencing truth, it's a very personal experience, but it doesn't guarantee that I am any more accepted in the world and in my surroundings than I was before. And there still remains this dilemma of this unreal world out there that's going on, and all the expectations that people have around that.
Yeah.
You know, for me, like some of my biggest challenges are my family, and I think that that's often the case anyway
Everybody,
for
yeah.
people.
Mm.
I don't know. It's kind of like I've had to accept that many people just won't get it. You can't have a discussion about truth. You can't have a discussion about what's real and what's authentic, you know, with your siblings in many cases. You know, your children are not interested. You know, everyone's out there in this crazy material world trying to get more for themselves. And you come along and say, hey, we're all one, you know, like, you don't need to worry about that, you know, it's all perfect and everything is stitched together with love. And it's kind of like, whoa, you know, like, so you can't have these conversations with people. And you have to accept that you're walking the path, you're in the world, but you're not of it. That's the bottom line. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very good. So yeah. So this is a kind of a helpful hint for any of you who are in more altered states, and you realize that the state you're in is more of connectivity and oneness, and there is a love that kind of connects everything together, and you're in this state. But when you speak to your friends or your family, they're not in that state, and it's a state of oneness. But there's something about that state that can, when you start to live it more often, it will get integrated into your life, so that you will find a language that you can start communicating with your friends and family, so that they can connect with you or relate with you. Because at first, when these things happen, it's so blown out that we're just trying to figure it out ourselves. But as time goes and you keep doing your practice, and things do integrate, and then you find a way to relate to your family and friends that they feel included in your experience as well. So, Ian, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience about truth, about nature, about spirituality, your own experiences that, that could be a helpful hint for how to live life in fully?
I think it's good in our Western culture to start to understand that the entire way that we see the universe is coming out of science. Like the science sees the universe this way, and because we're steeped in that right from our infancy upward, we go into our adult lives and we believe it's true.
Mm.
You know, we believe all of this is true. You know, like the sun is a burning ball of helium, and you know, like the earth does this and the stars do that, and blah blah blah. You know, and you know, it's almost like even quantum physics. It creates a conundrum for science. You know, you can't be here and something on the other side of the universe moves at exactly the same connection. You know, the whole phenomenon of quantum, forgot the term for it, damn. But anyway, so all of this theory is all theory, but we think it's true. And so then you come into this process and you have a direct experience
Yes.
of what is true.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's so
It
different, and
alters.
it's so out there that you don't know in some cases, you know, like what you can do with it, or how to integrate it. But the thing is, it at the initial part of it that I think is really important is we start to see that all of this is scientific theory and none of it is really truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say there couldn't be overlap, and maybe there could be. But, you know, like if we want to talk about a common element that's throughout the entire universe, we should be talking about love.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
because, you know, like even the most rational scientist or logical philosopher in the world would have to admit that love exists. And, you know, at some level, they'd have to admit it. But then there's no way to explain it. You can't put a pin in it. You know, like how is this substance?
Right.
How is it possible if you can't kind of bring it down to some subatomic particle and define it? And we have to surrender to the mystery of it.
Beautiful.
100 billion
Beautiful.
galaxies in the universe. At some point, we just got to say, "Hey, wow."
There's a lot more out there than I can know with my little intellect.
That's right.
Okay, so we're going to close our talk today. And is there any quote or statement about love that you could share with us about the truth of love?
Yeah, it's. I think it's something like, "Truth leads to love, and sooner or later, love leads to truth."
Woo! Yay! Truth leads to love, and sooner or later, love leads to truth. Beautiful. So whatever one you follow, you'll end up with both.
They're dovetailed.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with me today on Truth Speaks, because you spoke a lot of truth, and today's truth was mostly on love.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Ian Goudie.
you're welcome.
Okay.